louder than you can imagine. It's not like what you see on the television. It's incredible, and he didn't bat an eyelash.
Well, yes, and the thing is, I didn't actually know. I hadn't really been told it was going to be an explosion, because I went up and looked in the tent, and they had these big cannons. And I said to the boys, well, you know, what's going on? And they said, oh, no, don't worry. He said, all it is we're going to just blow out all this rubbish, you know, it's the detritus of the Lords of Ragnarok, you know, that's all it is. It's going to be a big wind and, don't worry. Anyway, as I say, we had to get it in. It was the last shot of the day. We had to move. That next day we were, no second chance, it had to be done. I walked past, then suddenly the whole Second World War starts right by me. The noise, the heat, I didn't know whether I was on fire. And I remember thinking, I mustn't blink, I must keep walking, I mustn't blink. So that was it, I didn't. Have you got your question, Sergeant?
Yeah, sorry, I somehow got the 6-story Dr. Story, Vengeance of Barrows, mixed up with...
Don't worry. What's your question?
What is up with Delta and the Bannerman?
What isn't up with them? Gentlemen, well, the Delta and the Bannerman, I don't know what you mean by what's up with them. It's a great story in many ways. It's also a very weird story in many ways.
Yeah. No, I mean, what was great about that was that I love the idea that, you know, these blobs from outer space would go through an arch and come out dressed as 50s rock and rollers, and I thought that was great. I also love the idea they got a retro bus, which was a rocket, and they were heading for Disneyland. And I also love the idea that the Americans secretly sent up a rocket and it knocked it off course. And they ended up having to go to Butlin's holiday camp in Wales. Now, Butlin's holiday camp is a really, really sub Disneyland. And so, it was the BBC trying to save money without actually having to take us all to Disneyland.
Andrew, when are we going to get you back writing for Sylvester for Big Finish?
Oh, I'd love to do that, and I had a great time. I had such a fantastic time writing for Sylvan Sophie for those missing adventures, and I want to do some more, and I think the only way that can happen is if some nice people just get in touch with Big Finish and say, can we have some more please? Because I think they're quite market driven, but I personally would be delighted to do that.
Yes, well, I mean, it was my idea that you should do it in the first place. Yeah, because, well, I
thank you, and my bank balance thanks you.
Okay. Okay, I want my percentage. Yeah, no, because when I heard that they were doing Colin Baker's, you know, kind of lost stories, I thought, ooh, wait a minute, what about the, you know, ours? I know they haven't been as advanced as Colin's were, but I thought, so I suggested it to them, and they finished, and they liked the idea, and that's how it happened. So I'm glad and delighted. Anyone else?
Oh, did anything happen, like, while you guys were filming, like, conveniently, that you didn't mean to use, but it was funny, so, like, you just used it in the show?
Well, I mean, if we go back to Delta and the Bannerman, it was the other way around, really. There was stuff that was in it that wasn't used, and I thought was very sad. We had Ken Dodd, who was one of the great traditional comics in Britain, stand-up comics. I mean, he's a god, really. He's a treasure, national treasure. And he was playing the part of, the welcomer, and we arrived with the billions of people to land on this floating platform, and welcome! And he was doing all his biz, his shtick, and he did it really well. And there was a bit where he was welcoming all the blobby people who turned into 50s people and put them on the bus, and he ad-libbed a whole pile of stuff. And all the extras were falling about laughing. They couldn't go on the bus because of what he was saying about them. You know, he said, oh, you know, is that your husband, or you just brought your dog? And all that, the guys in the past. And it was all rat-tat-tat stuff, and they never used it. Also, there was another thing about that really annoyed me was, Ken Dodd arrived, and he's not an experienced actor, but he has acted. He did an amazing Malvolio, I believe, in Twelfth Night once. And he wanted to act. He was very serious, and he said, "Look, please help me. Show me anything you want." But because he was so huge, it was very difficult really, to do that because he was a god. And I was sitting in the outside broadcasting unit watching, and there was a scene where the bannermen come and arrest him, and he's going, doing his act. And it was totally inappropriate. And I remember thinking, and Jonathan Turner and the director looked at each other and said, what is he doing? And I remember thinking, well, go and tell him. And I thought I couldn't tell him because I'm an actor, and there's one of those unwritten laws. Actors don't tell other actors what to do. I mean, a lot do, but they're not supposed to. And although Ken Dodd had said to me, help me if you think, I just thought I can't go to Ken Dodd and say to him, listen, Ken, imagine you're at the London Palladium and the IRA come and kidnap you. This is what this scene's about. This is terrifying. Just to get rid of the act.
That's brilliant.
I know. I should have been a director. But anyway, and it really has upset me ever since because it was their job, and they just sat there thinking, well, what is he doing? And I thought, well, what are they doing? They're supposed to direct him. But that was another thing that was problematic with Doctor Who, was that a lot of the directors didn't come from a background of theatre and acting. They came from a background of technology, technical stuff, like lighting, sound, and all that side of it. So they were really a bit nervous and they didn't expect that they should have to direct actors. So that was one of the failings, I think, in our time.
But I've just got one lovely little moment that we didn't expect that we got, which was, again, on Paradise Towers, when the Doctor and Bonnie first come out of the TARDIS. And Sylvester turns to this gasoline pump and he takes his hat off to it. And because it might be some kind of alien creature, he says, I'm like, well, you never know, do you?
Yeah.
It's a bit like when you attacked the lectern on the first day.
All right.
That took me back, made me feel nostalgic.
Oh, yes, yeah, that's true. I remember that. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Oh, Nico.
I was just going to ask, speaking of Delta and the Vanderman, you have the character of Ray, who is in a way sort of like a proto-8. Was there ever any talk that she was going to be the companion past that point, or was it just that she was just that like a trial thing, moving on from that?
Well, that was very deliberately done because two characters were run as potential companions. We had Ray and we had Ace in these two different stories because John, he was a wily old fox. He wasn't betting all his money on one thing. Also, from a point of view of negotiating with agents, if the actor's agent knew that they were, so. But I think John played his cards very close to his chest, and he certainly kept me in suspense about it. Because I was Ray, which was great, fantastic character, fantastic actor, but I preferred Sophie and Ace. So he certainly kept me guessing about it. But I think probably quite an early stage he knew what he wanted. But for all kinds of strategic reasons, it was useful to have both of those in the running.
So, this is more for Sylvester McCoy. In the 1996 movie, as far as writing goes, were you disappointed when you came out of the...
Sorry, we can't hear. I was only joking. It's called a joke. Anyway, sit down. Thank you. I've got 10 minutes. Thank you. Cheers.
So in the 1996 movie, yeah.
Were you disappointed when you came out of the TARDIS and got shot by a street gang?
Well, wouldn't you be disappointed if you came out?
But on the other hand, if you look at Colin Baker's transition, that was, he wasn't even there for that. So.
That was me. I was Colin Baker. I'm the only actress played two doctors. Well, yes. Technically, though, I got shot, but I didn't die. Because I went on to, it was Daphne Ashbrook that did for me.
She did, actually.
She killed me. Well, I wasn't killed, transformed into an uglier little man.
I'm not sure it's Spader,
Okay. How did you get started writing? And also, do you have any tips for, we're thinking about going into acting, and so I was wondering if you had any tips for us.
So how did I get started in writing, and then Sylvester can give you acting tips? No, that's a good way around.
No, we should do it the opposite way.
Ever since I learned to read, I wanted to be a writer, and I always wanted to write books. And in my foolishness, I thought, okay, I can write for television, that'll be easy, and I can do that to fund myself while I'm writing my novels. But if you get into television, it's like the whole Alice in Wonderland thing. It's sort of taken a big part of my life. But I always loved reading. I instantly wanted to write. When I was a little kid, I used to make lists of titles and imagine books. And one day I realized I'd have to write the damn things, so that was quite a job. Now, any tips for aspiring actors?
Well, aspiring actresses, don't do it. Don't put your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Worthington. It's a hard job, especially for ladies. It's not easy, really. But if you're going to do it, you have to be completely dedicated to it. And you just have to believe and hope and be lucky. I'm afraid luck has got a lot to do with it. Talent has got sometimes a little to do with it, not that much. It's whether you're lucky or who you know, sadly. And persistence. You have to keep knocking on the door and not give up if you really want to do it. Try and get work in a theatre, or in a film company, or television, or just help out, or just try. Make sure you're around, because something lucky might happen to you. See, what happened to me was that I worked at the City of London in reinsurance and insurance. I had pinstripe trousers, bowler hat. I hated every minute of it. But thank God the company I worked for went bust. Hopefully I was part of that reason. But anyway, it went bust. It was the 60s, and everyone was dropping out. We were all hippies. I had my hair longer than yours, and I had a moustache and a beard. I became a hippie. And there was a very famous theatre in London, centre of the hippie revolution, and they needed someone for the box office. What they needed was a hippie who could count, and I could. So I got a job in the box office. While I was there, someone mistook me for an actor, and then another director came in, Ken Campbell, guy, genius, came in and said to this actor, Brian Murphy, he said, Brian, I've got this mad show, and a young actor's let me down, and we're looking for someone, do you know anyone kind of wild? And Brian said, that's the guy in the box office, he's out of his head. And Ken came up to me and said, yeah, do you want to join my show? It's mad. And I said, yes, and that was it. That's how I became an actor. So I'm not very good at telling you how to do it. It just happened to me. I was asked to go in. Although I always wanted to, but I never had the courage to go through the doors of RADA, the portals of RADA, and knock on the door and say, I want to be an actor. I was too scared.
I just want to say what was fascinating, somebody was asking about writing, and it was exactly the same answer. It's talent, luck, and persistence. And surprisingly enough, talent isn't necessarily, the biggest ingredient.
Sadly.
Okay, who else?
That little chappie there.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, after seeing all the doctor's TARDIS interiors, what by far is your favorite?
Well, my favourite was my second TARDIS interior in the so-called Paul McGann film. Have you ever done I can say that. I can joke about that because he's so handsome. But anyway, the reason why I like that one, that was steampunky. I like that one very much. That's the one I'd really quite like to have had if I was, the TV doctors before we did that one. So, and I'm very pleased that it was my interior first. It's not his interior. I gave it to him. It's mine. Not mine.
Similarly, my favourite one was one that they used in Tom Baker here, which was sort of a wood-panelled Victorian one, which was amazing. And so it's kind of similar to the one that Sylvester's talking about, but there's a tragic story about that. It was this beautiful wooden TARDIS interior. The BBC, being the BBC, stored it outdoors, it got rained on, and it was ruined. And then classics up. Chris?
Well, actually, it's kind of off topic, but I'm sure some people probably not hit on this about Radagast. Speaking of the long-haired hippie, how do they do the bird poop?
Well, they used to get a trained pigeon every morning. And would shit on my hand. Not really. Snake out. What about Colin Baker over there?
If there had been a continuation into another season, or perhaps a couple more seasons for your character, do you think from a writer's standpoint, would there have been an opportunity maybe for a multi-doctor story, maybe with one of the other doctors? And as an actor, who would you have liked to play against?
Well, no, I mean,
From the writer point of view, I was kind of, that's not a story I ever would have pursued, because I always thought the whole thing about the Doctor is it's got to be unique and powerful, and as soon as you have another Doctor, the whole thing starts to get a bit weird. I know they've done some very successful ones, but for my personal temperament, I wouldn't have done that story unless the producer had come to me and said, oh, we definitely want to do this. So I would have avoided it. But having said that, if we were going to do one, here's the question about who you'd like to play.
Well, I mean, I always liked the multi-doctor ones when I saw them, you know, kind of, and I knew the fans loved them as well, so I would like to have done one. There was one that Ian Wrigglesworth, I think the guy called Ian Wrigglesworth wrote, and they were going to do it for the 30th anniversary. It all fell apart, but in that one, I was the resident doctor, and then, you know, Tom Baker came in, and then all the others were supposed to come in, and then, you know, I was quite excited about that. But the problem was they wrote the part too big for Tom Baker and not big enough for the other doctors, and so they were upset by that. It was a bit politically naive whoever wrote it. But it would have been, yeah, I mean, it was Patrick Troughton I'd love to work with. John Pertwee, we were great mates and all that. We had good fun at conventions and so, and Tom as well, Big Tom, and you know, Peter and Colin, and the lot really. I cannot say I would be delighted to work with all of them.
What other companion would you have liked to see Sylvester with that was not one of his companions? And which one would you like to play?
Leela.
You talked about the difficulties with translating to production staff. Was there ever a director or any group that really got it, but were also kind of somewhat hampered by the limitations that CBC gave?
Alan Waring was, I think, the best director we worked with, and he was up against all those limitations that you described, yeah.
No, it was funny, you knew you were working with a good director when you were working with him. We all felt that, Sophie and I and everyone else, and he knew his stuff. The other guys, you know, really didn't. The person is... Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Did I not mention it earlier?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, he's a Time Lord. I mean, I don't know. Yes, I'm a strong feminist, and so I find this one a difficult one. But you know, it's like Sherlock. Should you have Miss Sherlock? I don't know. Mrs. Marple? Should it be Mr. Marple? I don't know really. But there's a debate going on there.
At the back there?
The man with the hat on.
My darling want to know how many of his skin George Swan said.
His Dalek wanted to know.
How many of his skin did you just
Relative.
Well, I blew up the whole planet. All I did was divert the power that was coming to destroy us. You know, I just bounced it off, but rather cleverly. And it just so happened that it hit Scarborough. Trillions of Daleks evaporated. Very sad.
Did you ever have any pranks or practical jokes played on the set when you were the Doctor?
I remember I was standing around on the set, Remembrance of the Daleks, innocently eating a bacon sandwich, when this van pulled up with Sylvester and Sophie inside. They're about to shoot into shot to be filmed. They dragged me in with them. So they kidnapped me. So I'm in that scene in the back of the van.
Chewing a sandwich. I mean, there was one where, it's, again, survival, where I'd forgotten completely about it, really. It's actually on tape somewhere. I've only seen it once briefly, but what happened was I was directing everyone. At the end, there was some, you know, I was going, run, quick, this way, that way, you know, do this, and all that. I was directing someone, and for some reason we kept doing take after take. They kept missing it, and by the end of it, I got completely, really annoyed. So when it went, come on, and then, but then when they got to the end of the scene, I didn't stop. So I was running and I was starting, and I remember jumping up and down, and I took my jacket off and I threw it on the ground, I took my hat off, and then I dived into the ground. It was mad, because it was sand, yes, but it was hard sand. I really knocked myself out. But that's on tape somewhere, I saw that recently. I must try and get a copy of that.
Yes, the doctor desperately wants...
Here comes trouble. He's too scared to come to me.
The doctor desperately wants to be a ginger. What actor did you guys, a ginger actor, did you guys say, hey, that would make a great doctor?
The doctor wants to be ginger? Which doctor? Well, that's because the writer's obviously in love with someone who's got ginger hair. I don't know. Well, I know ginger.
The actor who was in Band of Brothers and then was in Homeland, I can't remember his name, sorry about that.
Damian Lewis.
Thank you, yeah, I think he's terrific, terrific and ginger.
Yeah, public school boy. He's from, he's Eton, yeah. He's an Eton boy. Yes. No, it's funny actually, there was an article in the paper recently about how a lot of public school boys are doing really well in acting in Britain. Yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch and Damien, who I know as well, which is strange. Anyway, one more, or is that it? One more. That lady way up there, no, it's a fella with a long hair and a hat.
Yeah, can you name all the dwarf from The Hobbit?
Dopey, smelly. Flirty. Grumpy. Bumpy. Slumpy. Will that do?